I was tired of this so-called mockery of discipline. This guy was mad. I no longer held in the pain. I cried out louder as he hurt me. My mother could no longer pretend that she could not hear a thing. She was upstairs in her room. I saw her come out near her door a couple of times, but she did not come into the room to stop Avon. She grabbed him with her right hand and begged him to stop. Sweat was dripping profusely from his entire face, nose, ears, jaws. One would have thought he had just won the marathon. She finally came. What took her so long? What was she afraid of? Her son was being beaten like an animal, and she hesitated to rescue him. I did not care about the hesitation. I was happy she had decided to come. Avon looked at her. He's pretending not to understand. What don't you understand? My mother asked me. She had posed a silly question. She was aware of the conversation between Avon and I the entire time. But to humor them both, I answered her. I don't understand why... Do you see what you've done? He is going to start lying all over again, he said, cutting me off. Read the problem to me, my mother said calmly. I started reading the exercise, but Avon grabbed the paper from my hand and started whipping me all over again. The paper ripped. My mother begged him to stop, and he did. However, he was angry. What happened next was utterly mind-boggling. Don't you see that he is lying? Are you going to stand there and let him lie? What will happen later if we don't correct him now? This is the critical moment in his life. Here, take the whip. No, my mother said. You're saying no? Take care of your responsibility. We have to be in agreement on this. Take it. He pushed the whip toward her. She did not budge. Her facial contortions indicated that there was a battle going on inside her. Take it, I said. My mother took the whip and whipped me. During the entire time that my stepfather beat me, I cried. I cried because of physical pain. But now, what I felt was more emotional. I wanted to cry because I was sad, heartbroken at her betrayal. I did not struggle or resist her. She had succumbed to the whip. Figuratively speaking, she was whipped. Tears would not come from me. I capitulated to the betrayal. I felt as if someone had taken a needle and pierced it through my heart. I was surprised, stunned, flabbergasted. The first strike of the whip did nothing to me. I was looking at her in amazement. I was not angry, just shocked. The needle had penetrated my naked heart like an electrical current. The whip was the electrical current, and the needle holder was my mother. My tears were drained like an empty well. When she was done, she remained quiet. Avon did all the talking. Sit down, he said, a little calmer. I sat to the left of the door in the threshold. He was still drenched with sweat. He also seemed tired. This did not surprise me because he had finished exercising. Maybe he would not go to the gym the next day, I thought. Do you know why what you did wasn't good? This guy was a real a-hole, and I must have been insane like my mother for tolerating such living environment. He did not even know how to solve the math problem himself. I knew he was faking it. He went as far as algebra in high school. I stared at him, trying to feign an expression of shame. I was tired. I wanted to go to bed, and the only way to do that was to lie and play along with his manipulation. He was comporting like a father who was obliged to make tough decisions despite the cost. I won't do it again. I'm really sorry. I was really sorry to be a part of the family. I was sorry for not being strong enough to fight him back physically despite the consequences. What was the worst thing that could have happened? He would have broken my jaw or something like that. In hindsight, this would have been a good thing. For if someone noticed it at school, I would have been taken away from the family. I really did not know what held me back. Perhaps it was my mother's fear that, quote-unquote, they would take me away from her if I talked. Well, that night, I could have been farther away from her emotionally. She was teaching me how our loved ones can betray us, while Avon was teaching me how to lie to myself. Avon was still talking. He spoke about the importance of following a good path in life, leading an honest life. He never did understand that under no circumstances would I lie to myself and actually believe all the crap He was feeding me. My mouth may have been saying one thing, but deep inside, I knew the truth and would never waver. I'm sorry for having lied. I lied to avoid punishment, but now I know that it wasn't the right thing to do. Ooh la la, as the French would say. I could not believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. I was getting good. Avon was turning me into a liar, a bullshitter. I was lying so well that I was convinced that he was buying the crap. He seemed to be soothed by my words. His tone changed to calm and understanding. In hindsight, I understand that this guy needed a lot more than prison. He needed some sort of intense psychiatric help from someone like Dr. Brian Weiss. Is there someone who you really respect? Avon asked me. Yes. Who? Mr. Jordan. Reader, recall that this was my 4th grade teacher. Why do you like him? I don't know. He's nice. Think a little. Does Mr. Jordan lie? I don't think so. That's what you have to be. You're right. It's not good to lie. Before lying next time, think about him. Ask yourself if Mr. Jordan would lie. Use him as a model to guide you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes. I want you to succeed in life. Can I trust that next time you will not lie? Yes. I have learned a lot tonight. Next time I won't try to avoid punishment by lying. He stood up and signaled with his hands for me to get up. I stood up and he hugged me. This was extremely emotionally uncomfortable. I wondered what was going on in his mind. Instead of hugging me, he should have been begging me for forgiveness. I went to the bathroom, washed my face with soap, brushed my teeth, and went to my room. I had to get into bed cautiously. The top left side of my back was bruised. My buttocks were very sore and did not support contact with the bedsheets. I could not sleep on my back. I had to sleep on my stomach, which was fine because I hardly slept on my back anyway. I went to bed that night without saying anything to my brothers. The next morning was even tougher. I could not sit on a chair. The pain was deep. When I sat down, I felt a tear, the skin separating. Up to then, I had not outwardly resisted or expressed my grievance against Avon's tyranny. This changed one day when we were returning home one weekend after shopping at Sunrise Mall. We had gone to big department stores such as Weinstock, JCPenney's, and Sears. While we were at a red light, Avon posed a geographical question. How many continents are there? Well, 7, I said with excitement. What did you say? He asked, appearing upset apparently because of my use of the word well. I said there are 7. He also did not like the way I answered his second question. Watch your mouth. I decided to be quiet. You're not going to say anything? I knew what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to apologize. I was not going to do it. I really did not know what overcame me that day, but I was not going to apologize. Perchance it was the weather. It was 104 degrees Fahrenheit. I had enough of his dictatorship. I should never have accepted to live with you, I said crystal clear. Avon turned his head really fast like a military general who wanted to reproach a soldier. Your mother is doing the best she can for you, and you dare insult her? Repeat what you just said. This was a dare. I knew I had crossed the line. As soon as he was able to, he pulled to the side of the road. He nearly yanked me out of the car. There's nothing preventing me from whipping you right here in the middle of the road naked. Do you want me to do it? Actually, there was, but I remained quiet. Do you want me to do it? He shouted at me again. If you've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. Haven't I told you to always respect your mother? Yes, I answered with a frown. Get your butt in the car. When we arrived home, Avon ordered me to get the whip. Take off your clothes. I did it hesitantly, with a mixture of anger and fear. He whipped me next to the kitchen in the dining room. When he was finished, he folded the whip and told me to bring him a piece of paper with a pencil. Go apologize to your mother first. I went to my mother and said, I'm sorry, I was just angry. I didn't really mean to say it. It's okay, she answered. I returned to Avon. Now write what I say. What I said was stupid, and I am sorry. I will always respect my mother. Write it 300 times. Show it to me when you finish. I do not recall exactly how long I was in my room, but I was sure that I had been writing for several hours. When I finished, I descended the stair to show Yvonne my finished product. Here it is, I finished. Good. Did you understand why what you did was wrong? Yes, I'm sorry. It's not me you have to apologize to. I turned to Dada to offer my apologies again. I'm sorry. It's alright, you've already told me. For a brief second, I thought I was clear and free. Now follow me, Yvonne said. I ran up the stairs with him. I had no idea what he was up to. When we reached the top of the stairs, he opened the closet door to the left. Get inside. I was puzzled. Stay inside for an hour. Do not turn on the light. Stay in the dark and let the darkness make you think a little. An hour and a half later, I thought I had been in there for 3. What was this? Maybe I was in prison, in the hole. It was clear to me that Avon was trying to break my spirit. He didn't know how to do it. He may do 1,000 of such similar things, but he could never reach what was inside. Despite the pain, I absolutely knew that I was in the right. I went toward the door to listen. Maybe he had forgotten me. Another half an hour would pass before he came for me. He opened the door and turned on the light. I opened my eyes only to close them immediately, for the light was blinding. When I opened them again, he was looking at me with a menacing frown. He seized me with his right hand and nearly threw me out of the room. Get out of my face. I obeyed with pleasure. I went to my room and closed the door. The next morning was a typical day. It was about 10:30 a.m. SAV and I were preparing breakfast in the kitchen, while Dada and Avon were upstairs, supposedly sleeping. Aguesi, come here, he called out from the top of the stairs. He was holding the ramp, which was to the right of the stairs, completely naked. He was always naked in the morning. I don't think I have ever seen any man shown his nudity more than my stepfather. I studied his penis with my peripheral vision as he spoke to me. It was medium. You didn't hear me calling you the first time? No, I didn't hear you. Are you going to lie again? No, I swear I didn't hear you. I was confused. I didn't understand why he was always convinced that we were ignoring him. There was not much noise coming from the kitchen. I was sure that if he had called me, I would have heard him. He was probably lying about it. I don't want to hear any more lies. I was not. Okay. I knew I needed to shut up. Okay, what? Next time, I'll answer right away. Next time I'll whip you, he said. He went back to his room and I to the kitchen. SAV heard the whole conversation. I didn't hear him call you. And after eating the pancakes and eggs that we made, I went upstairs to ask for permission to go out. Could we go out to play basketball? You're not going anywhere. You're staying to clean all the toilets in the house. Tell your brothers they can go out. They must be back by 5 p.m. What are you waiting for? I look forward to Saturdays. This was the only time I had to escape his household. Well, go. I went to the kitchen to deliver the message as if he was already putting his shoes on. I'll be ready in a few seconds. Yeah, have fun. Why are you saying that? Because Avon doesn't want me to go, I answered sadly. He wants me to clean all the toilets. He said to come back at 5 o'clock. I worked nearly until 5 p.m. I finished, I said joyously to Avon. Let's go see. He checked all the toilets. The toilets downstairs are not very well done. I did them again. By this time, SAV had returned to the house and another day ended. In addition to the physical violence at home, Avon also limited my sport activities with the exception of one. I was 16 years old and had gotten into wrestling. I joined the school's wrestling team during my sophomore year and was practicing nearly every day. It was a very physically demanding sport. We practiced for hours, sweating and throwing each other around on the mat with different wrestling moves. It was not only for amusement, for it was an activity that allowed me to see less of Avon. It was during this particular time that things were not going well at the house. One day, due to an error on my part, this activity also came to an end. It was a Friday afternoon, and I was out with my wrestling club. We were competing against other high schools. This was my first partaking in a match, and I was excited. The first guy I wrestled had a lot of experience. He claimed to have been competing since he was 7 years old. To be honest, I was a little disappointed because I almost won. Well, at least that was how I felt. It was a mere back error. I had turned part of my back at the wrong time. That day, I thought that I would have another chance to win, but our group did not find the next location on time. Night was falling upon us. We were hungry, so we went to a fast food restaurant to eat. It was either McDonald's or Burger King. I do not remember. By 8:27, I was beginning to worry. I should have already called my parent. I told Tion's parents that I needed to call home. Your parents are strict? His mother asked me. Yes, I need to call. I called from a payphone. Avon picked up the telephone. He did not seem upset, but when I went home, it was another story. Why didn't you call us sooner? I didn't remember. We were late. How's that? We had a hard time finding a place, so why didn't you call? We were eating. You need to learn to respect the rules. You can't call only when you feel like it. It's not acceptable. That was the end of my high school wrestling experience. I continued practicing, but my enthusiasm had decreased. It was not the same as when there were competitions. I was not the only one who had been deprived of his favorite sport. SAV had asked several times if he could play American football on a team when he was a freshman in high school. My mother was against it. I vividly recall her protest. He could get hurt. She said that she did not have the health insurance money, and that if he were to get hurt, she would not have been able to take care of him financially, and besides, he could get paralyzed playing football. She was in the kitchen discussing the issue with my stepfather. SAV protested by saying that all the kids were going to play next year and that their parents had signed the permission form. Since Avon was in agreement with Dada, SAV would never play football. As time passed, it is now obvious to me that Avon was less interested in using the whip to strike us. He now preferred his hands. This was about a year later. We were at Lake Tahoe in California. I recalled fond memories there. Years passed because we children shared a room and we were free to watch television to our eyes' content.